In this video, we will be fixing the exhaust system on this 2003 Toyota Camry. On the exhaust system, we have an exhaust manifold. This has an integrated catalytic converter. Outside of that, we have a heat shield. Taking a look inside the engine bay, we can clearly see that heat shield. Underneath that heat shield is our exhaust manifold and the first of two catalytic converters. After that manifold and catalytic converter, we have an exhaust pipe assembly for the front. This has both a flexible pipe portion as well as our second catalytic converter a little bit further down. Taking a look under the vehicle, we can see that portion of flex pipe as well as our second catalytic converter. If we take a look at our schematic, we can see the next section of exhaust pipe. This has a resonator built into this length of pipe. And taking a look underneath the vehicle, we can see that center exhaust pipe assembly with the resonator that is built into that pipe. And back to our schematic, we have the tailpipe assembly, which is essentially the muffler. And that muffler is pretty easy to identify underneath the vehicle. We are missing a bolt at the connection point between our first catalytic converter on our exhaust manifold and our front exhaust pipe assembly, which has that flex pipe and second catalytic converter. However, the other side of this connection point still has that bolt intact. We can also see our downstream oxygen sensor. On one side, our flex pipe looks like it is in decent shape. On the other side, we can see it starting to separate. And from the top side, we can see that we have a large hole in it. Our catalytic converter pipe to resonator pipe connection looks to be in decent condition still. However, our resonator pipe to muffler connection doesn't look very good. And we actually have one of the bolts that has broken, leaving a large gap in there. And the muffler itself and tailpipe seem to be in decent condition aside from that connection point. Now, given that we are actually replacing the muffler, the resonator, and the catalytic converter, the only bolt we are actually concerned about is the exhaust manifold to catalytic converter bolt. All of the other ones we can leave connected and just lower this entire system in one piece. If we take a look at the rear of the vehicle, we can see the muffler. We can also see one of our muffler hangers. On the other side of the muffler, we have a second muffler hanger. Those brackets are held on by two 14mm bolts. The next hanger is directly in front of the muffler. And when these come out, you need to have something supporting the exhaust system because most of the system will drop down. So before I remove that last bolt fully, I'm going to tie it up with a ratchet strap. Located a little bit further up, we have another hanger on the driver's side as well as the passenger side. These hangers are welded on to the vehicle as well as the exhaust system. The only connection point is the rubber connection. So we're just going to work this off of each side. If I follow my exhaust system a little bit further up on my catalytic converter pipe, I also have a hanger. Now I have installed an additional ratchet strap so that again the system doesn't drop down on me. And this one also has 13mm bolts. In front of the flex pipe I have another bracket. So the last two pieces we have left are the oxygen sensor and our one bolt connecting the catalytic converter pipe to our exhaust manifold. Taking a look from the top of the engine down, I can see that wiring harness for my oxygen sensor. There is a small button that needs to be pushed on the left side so you can wiggle loose the right side. And then we have our one last final remaining bolt. All of my bolts are free, and I have one last bracket in the center of the vehicle holding the system up, in addition to my ratchet straps. And I can loosen my ratchet straps and slide that out. And with our exhaust system removed, we are ready to install our new parts. If we lay out our new components next to our old components, we want to make sure it appears as though they are about the same as far as length and location of brackets and whatnot. These look good. We're going to begin with the catalytic converter portion of the exhaust system. And we need to determine if there are parts that need to be transferred from the old system to the new system. And we can definitely see where that old pipe was almost completely separated. Items that I need to move are my rubber hanger, as well as the steel bracket in front of the flex pipe. And we'll let that cool for a while. Now, underneath the vehicle, we do want to inspect the exhaust manifold connection to make sure that it is in good condition before we try to bolt on a new component. Now I'm just going to clean off a little bit of the rust and previous gasket material. Then I'll clean it up with a little acetone on a rag. I was able to get it about as clean as it's going to get. We do have a gasket that will be fitting around there. When these parts are smashed together, it should seal nice and tight. At this point, our first length of pipe has been installed onto the vehicle. We are connected by our rubber hangers. I have my steel bracket, which required a bit of working to get that in there just right. It was not a super perfect fit, but I had to bend it and modify it just a little bit, and it's nice and solid now. And I have my frontmost connection connecting this length of pipe to the exhaust manifold. There is a location for my oxygen sensor, which I have not installed yet. I do have a gasket in between these two components, and these bolts are tightened down very tight to smash that gasket, forming that seal. The next length of pipe we are going to install has our resonator. This is the longest piece of the entire system, and we will also be installing a gasket between those connection points. And I'm going to add that bracket in place to help hold it. And then I can add that gasket and start my bolts. And my pipe is sitting at just a little bit of an angle. So I'm going to use a ratchet strap and raise the back end so that my connection point is nice and square. So at this point we have our first two sections installed. We do have a gasket between these two sections. These bolts are tightened very tight as to smash that gasket in there, sealing this connection point. We have our two rubber hangers holding on to the middle. We additionally have our safety bracket, and temporarily I have the back end held up with a ratchet strap as to just kind of get that in place and not put unneeded stress on that first joint. And our last component is the muffler. This has three rubber hangers that we will be moving first before we attempt to put the muffler on the vehicle. If we first work the end of a small flathead screwdriver into that rubber hanger, we can then work that rubber hanger off more easily. I'm going to make sure to install it on the vehicle in the same orientation. And then we should be able to slip that muffler onto those rubber hangers. And the goal is to get this lined up as perfectly as we can to make attaching these joints a little bit easier. And with that positioned pretty much in place, I'm going to slip my gasket in. And I adjusted that ratchet strap so we can line up a little bit closer. And the last piece to install is that oxygen sensor. And make sure you connect the wiring harness. And at this point we should be able to start it and listen to see how it sounds. And we do have just a little rattle right at startup. This will be something we will be sure to investigate. And we can take a look underneath and check the length of the system just to make sure nothing looks unusual. And everything's looking pretty good.